time for another round of brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly, Newman, and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
And welcome back to another round of brandy. We are so happy to have you with us today as we start this episode off with some brand news. It's actually a rebrand that just dropped, and it is a pretty big one, and it's not that great.
The whole community is up in arms.
It's kind of liking it.
Yeah, again, whenever something like this drops and it's like a rebrand that just is a fail, I can't help but feel a little sorry for the design team that was responsible for it, that got all excited and are probably really proud to show this off, and then to have it just completely, everybody in the industry just going, what the heck? You got to stop and wonder, God, I hope that never happens to me in my career where I just have a bunch of egg on my face, And
then everyone just tearing apart in the comment section.
Yeah, but we're talking about a brand that's fairly familiar in the news outlets circle. That is MSNBC, big news outlet, right? Big outlet.
Massive.
And it's recently gone through a change.
Which is crazy because the Peacock is probably one of the most iconic.
Very iconic.
Like it's
very iconic.
It's been around. NBC.
Yeah.
It's so iconic. And so MSNBC had MSNBC, and on top of that, they had the Peacock resting.
Yeah.
And Comcast owns all of that, and so
it's very NBC. The same lettering style is just NBC, but then you add MS in front of it, and it becomes MSNBC, and it was its own outlet.
And it was just kind of its thing. And they did news and stuff. But So Comcast was spinning them off, trying to make them look independent and not associated with NBC anymore. So now they renamed it, and it's called MS Now. MS Space
Now.
And then underneath that it says My Source.
My Source
News Opinion
World.
Which even when you look at it, it's a little odd, like the reading and just the rhythm of it. It feels weird. It's just off. And then the icon on the left side of it,
the logo mark. And I'm a designer, but when I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, what is that? It's a very unusual shape. Pull it up, or maybe we can supply a link for the comparison, in the description for this episode. But it's got a couple lines, so it wants to be like a flag or a banner, but then I'm seeing like the lines that might be like, like hot news, like, hey, it's the latest news. But it's weird in what it's trying to be, and it's vague in what it's trying to symbolize. And I think the biggest thing is that when you have they didn't pair the MS and Now together, so it's MS space Now. Well, MS, I have two family members that extended family members that struggle with multiple sclerosis. So MS has its own stigma in abbreviation
already.
As a standalone. Right. No one ever thought twice when it was MSNBC because it's like one long thing.
Yeah, you kind of.
And now it's MS Now, and it's weird because when we first saw it, I was like, wait, MS, that's like that has a different
MS
connotation.
Is MS. Yeah,
it means something else in general usage among the populace. So. And then the way they treated, and now then it took us a while before we recognized that the subheading little qualifiers that they had were actually made up the acronym for MS.
The whole thing's an acronym.
But why have it? It was just, it felt forced. It wasn't. And I guess you Google it or whatever, people are just up, like everybody's posting like.
Yeah,
not hate on it, but just like
the comments are like, whoever did this should be fired, or even change it back before
it's too late.
Yeah, before it's too late.
Before the cement sets.
I just love the fact that the acronym. I'd been looking at it for a pretty long time and thinking about it, and the acronym didn't hit me until we'd been talking. And then
we were talking about it.
Oh, it's an acronym.
Like, oh, wait a minute.
It's just, I don't know.
It took us a while to think, and
even the icon, it feels so cliche of what you would do for something kind of political, something news, something it needs to be American, so it might look like flaggish, and it has red and blue, but mostly blue, and it's just so like, good grief. And then the whole I saw a quote from the CEO and stuff where it is, or the president or something, and they're trying to just make it so it comes across independent. So it's cosplay. It's what I would recall as corporate cosplay. That's a new I'm going to coin that.
I like that term.
Corporate
That's another one to add
cosplay.
to your belt of new terms to the English language
I
that
like
will
it.
probably stick.
Yeah, Reilly's dictionary for the gifted and neurotic. But we're not talking about that today. I'll have that dictionary come out at some point. Today, we are talking about something a little different. Scott, what are we talking about?
When a brand engages with its audience, with its intended audience, how it creates ways to be more of a magnet and draw the audience in and allow it rather than pushing the brand onto the audience. It's a pull versus push. And we're going to be talking about a very specific, high-profile global brand that everyone's familiar with.
Yes, starting in 1984, you had the birth of Red Bull. Founded by an Austrian guy named Dietrich Mateschitz. I probably butchered that.
Probably completely butchered that.
But it's good enough. So what's amazing about Red Bull is that it was just a tonic, a carbonated drink that then blew up into this media, crazy marketing empire. And we kind of wanted to highlight this because it is this very dramatic example of a company going beyond its product or offering and focusing just on brand and creating just this full image that then bleeds into really different categories, different markets.
Well,
and
correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm phrasing this wrong, but Dietrich does not make the product.
No, they don't produce it. He might own the recipe or whatever, but,
right, but
it's crazy that the handshake agreement that he had back in the day with the supplier that he met in Indonesia or something like that, they set up an agreement, and to this day, Red Bull doesn't actually produce any of the beverage.
They don't produce the fluid, the liquid, the cans,
It's all handled. It's all outsourced.
It is outsourced through another company. It's almost like a white label in a sense. They found a beverage manufacturer that makes this. Red Bull slaps their label on it, but basically their business is brand. It's not beverage.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I enjoy so much about this is that it's very counterintuitive to business logic, where it would make sense to get to a certain point where then you take those expenses of production and bring it in-house and you can it yourself and you do all these things because it's economies of scale, and you take it all in-house and you drop your costs and you keep just growing like that. But just his decision to not do that, I find really just fascinating, and it's really inspiring because he flipped the model on its head.
And Red Bull has been able to capitalize and really dominate the energy drink culture purely through all the other unusual things that he's done to focus all of his energy and time and money into building the brand versus building the product.
Yeah, and there's some great quotes from him where he's like, everything is the Red Bull image, everything. So you can tell that even just his focus, his mindset really of how he approached the business, how he went about even just constructing the business and how it operates was everything about the image of Red Bull. And so even what it was at the time, there wasn't energy drinks when he was starting. So he had to not only create this whole new category, but he had to submit all the right paperwork, start actually defining what this new category is, because they were trying to put him in the soda market, but he wasn't wanting to be categorized as a soda or a carbonated beverage. And so he needed to really not only start a company, but also start a whole new category of beverage, which is just massive, because that's education. That's a lot of things where you're trying to catch the audience up to speed on what this new, thingamajig is.
To his credit, and something we preach all the time about launching a brand, he found that alone, he found a distinction in the marketplace by finding something no one else was doing and creating filling that gap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's found, so the tonic that he came across in Indonesia or something like that.
I like that.
It was non-carbonated, and I think they had the vitamins and stuff in it and all of that, and he was just like, wow, this is great. And the locals would talk about, oh yeah, it gives you energy, it gives you and they were talking about all this, and I think they used it for certain purposes, like waking up or something like that. It was pretty much like a coffee. And
that's my day. I need to, wake up, grab that can of Red Bull, pound it, and go.
That's like a certain type of person. And so then he's like, man, the West would eat this up because it's right up the alley of coffee drinkers, of energy, all of that. And he then wanted it to be carbonated, so he worked out that deal. And anyways, then he pretty much forms this whole relationship of getting this thing canned and getting it to market. And again, going into like the EU and going through Germany and just be able to get to market was a huge undertaking, because even getting it approved by regulation and whatnot. So this guy like not only like climbed mountains to get an energy drink to market, but did it so deliberate about even his decisions about the can size, the can design, everything about it was like, it was so almost just like calculated. And I guess he did have marketing background, but then I think he dropped out or something. And you could tell he just had the right mindset about all these decisions he was making.
Everything being distinctive in the marketplace.
Yeah. And so everything from not only his position where, okay, he wanted to charge more than an average soda. So then he didn't want to enter the soda, carbonated market, because then he would be too expensive. But then he went, okay, if I start this new category of drink, I can charge whatever I want, because then there's no comparison. So he does that. That's a distinct position in the market, literally creating a market. Then his distinct presentation and packaging was on top of that. So he's carving out like, and there weren't cans that size before him. There was like, it was weird. And I guess he was like, they would make fun of him for the skinny little cans he created. But it was just like, it was so intelligent the way he went about it. And it was very just like, kind of what we talk about in other episodes of having that brand mindset. It was very just like Walt Disney-esque, where all these decisions that, this guy, Dietrich, or even like what Walt Disney, they were mocked and ridiculed for their decisions along the way. But then it just ultimately created this amazing
last laugh
empire.
Yeah.
Well, what does this mean for like a small business? How does this actually pan out? And like Red Bull, I think in 2024, they sold like tens of millions of cans. I think the exact number,
12.6
billion. Yeah. So it's like, okay, how does he go from nothing to moving 12.6 billion cans of energy drink, which is already a very specific market? And you think about all the things he's done along the way where it was never about the energy drink, but everything he does goes back to the energy drink. Is that to his original kind of statement that everything is the Red Bull image? Is like you see his movement into extreme sports, into F1 racing, into even I think he has like a soccer team and things like that, where he took the Red Bull image, the Red Bull brand and the perception, and then kind of transplanted it into these other markets. And I think that was like, it's something that a lot of founders could learn about, because it opens up your mind where you're not just going, okay, my product is X, so I'm stuck inside my category. I can't go over there and do that. I can't do an event. And I think a good local example of that is we have 805 Beer here in town, and they've done that where now they have like the Firestone Walker Festival. 805 goes out and does events, they sponsor things, and they've branched out into these other kind of lifestyle events and experiences that have helped expand the brand beyond just beer.
Yeah, and I think that's where they're able to, capitalize by having, being where like-minded individuals that would be into an energy drink, where do they huddle, where do they congregate, and having the brand presence there and almost creating things, creating experiences, creating things that get those like-minded people together in the first place. And it's not like they're out there, if you go to a festival or something or whatever and Red Bull's a sponsor, they're not out there literally like, buy the can, buy the can, buy the can. Yeah. It's just they're pitching the Red Bull. In fact, even I was thinking about from a design standpoint, the packaging. Like you compare it on the shelf from, Monster, Rockstar, Mountain Dew is headed more into the energy drinks. Even Starbucks got into the whole, energy drink type kind of fad and all that stuff. But all those cans are large, big, they're like size A. And then there's the still Red Bull, the mini cans. Yeah. And the fact that it's so simplistic in its design with this almost like leaning into the race car, like it's got almost like an automotive emblem, like hood ornament with the Red Bull side profile.
Yeah, it's very
just the simple blue, silver, red. It's just very Formula One racing, like you said. You brought up the Formula One racing. It's like it's got that design. It's almost like screaming that lane and to that audience that no one else is doing as well. So it's being distinctive in that area.
Yeah, and even the way they did that reminds me of the tab on top. Is that he has like the logo knocked out on the little tab you use to open the can. And since then, Monster, these other brands have copied that, where he used that even as a little brand touch point. And it was unique and different, but also to justify the higher price and get that premium profitability off the cans. So this takes me to my next point, is that no one knows like really the details of Red Bull's financials because it's still a private company, but they're obviously profitable and healthy. Monster, on the other hand, is a public company, so we know their financials. And Monster, I think, averages like 50 to 55% margin. And so you can use that as like an industry kind of proxy for Red Bull. And here's the kicker, though, is that the margin that Red Bull makes with like their F1 sports team and some of these other things isn't as impressive as that. So if you look at these brand assets that they have in the soccer team, that F1 team,
they have a media channel, right, where they just sell like
Red Bull Media House. They have these different outlets that are kind of these like octopus arms, of the brand, and they funnel back to the very profitable drink that they move. And if you look at these efforts, because I was even talking to someone, they're like, well, brand has to. It can't be like, it has to make money. But then that, to the whole point, like we talked about before, that brand is the relationship. Brand is the ROI in that.
Yeah, it has different metrics than number of cans sold or top sales or profitability for a quarter.
What's cool about Red Bull is that he takes these other areas, like something as extreme as a F1 racing team, and converts that into cans being moved.
Yeah.
Which, due to his intelligent positioning and pricing strategy, when he first came on the market, is very profitable. So all these things that they do and they decide to do, whether it's the space jump where the guy skydived from space, everyone looks up and watches that and watches it on TV. Media outlets cover it. They do content based off that, and then they give that content out. So everyone's covering it, and that costs them, I think it was like $60 million or something outrageous for that one event. And then that converts to cans.
Indirectly to cans being sold, because people just naturally do that. They don't just consume that. It reinforces the mindset and the perception the brand has with the audience that's into that type of thing. And so the natural extension of that is for them to include, if they feel aligned in mentality with Red Bull, they want Red Bull as part of their lifestyle. And that means going down to the store and picking up some snacks and grabbing a can or two of Red Bull. And that's how that brand is then, adaptable into that person's life. Yeah. It's not like, oh, well, they're a Red Band fans, so they're going to jump out of an airplane or they're going to do all those things. Now, maybe you got people in that audience that do, but that's not the end goal. And that's why it's interesting, because their marketing, everything is not about. It's about selling a mindset, and then the can is the byproduct of that mindset. Which I always find too is that all of the adrenaline run, stigmas of that audience. You look at their TV commercials, and that's what I've always loved about their TV commercials. They're iconic. I don't think I've seen a change really in Red Bull. They've always been the same, but it's the same style. It's the pace. It's that loose pencil sketch kind of cartoony, white background, minimalistic. Would follow suit by making sure, okay, that's your slogan, that's so all of our billboards, everything's going to have that white backdrop, that everything's consistent. And I for one preach consistency on brand touch points from the mountaintops. We both do. But this is an instance where their TV commercials have a completely different message and tone that's not repeat on everything else. Yeah. And I find that interesting, because that would kind of go counter to what we'd normally preach, but it works for them. And I feel like they're meeting a need or reaching an audience that's slightly different than their normal audience. So it's an interesting point, because normally, again, everything that he has done has been counterculture to what you'd think.
I think there's an Ogilvy quote, which Ogilvy Advertising is a global advertising agency that's been around for a long time. And David Ogilvy was like this brilliant advertising man. And he would talk about that of kind of with advertising is that the scale only makes sense if there's consistency. And so the whole point of advertising is that you're leveraging scale, especially if it was television at the time or radio. You do this huge broadcast and you have the scale, but now you need to be consistent or it's not going to work. If you're changing it every single time, the scale doesn't matter because you're hitting at different notes. And so the whole Red Bull thing is almost like, okay, the visuals are the same. The story and the little what's going on, the cartoon changes. The Red Bull gives you wings, stays the same. So they're hitting this, the visual identity is repetitive. The slogan, the jingle is repetitive. So it's like this constant dripping on the stone, and yet the little cartoon changes, so the intrigue is there. You go, oh, what's going to happen in this one, right?
Oh, I haven't seen this one. Yeah.
And so I think there's something to be said about the compounding that they may be using, where they go, just play the same thing over and over and over and over, but change the story each time. But the visuals stay the same, the slogan stays the same, the jingle, everything about it is the same.
Yeah.
And so then that creates that memory, that recall where, oh yeah, it becomes iconic. Like everyone knows, like the Red Bull gives you wings. Like everyone knows that. And so I think there's something to be said there about kind of the use of leverage or leveraging, kind of compounding in that. And then with the events and the extreme sports and all of that, like they have everything from, like, I follow the Red Bull parkour Instagram, where it's like, or the free running, where they're just like doing parkour, like they're running around doing crazy stuff, like all around the world. But then I've seen their high dive stuff. They have Red Bull TV. They have all this crazy just media that they're producing, but it's not so much, it really isn't just the content for the sake of content. The content is the byproduct of creating these amazing moments. And that's what even, I just saw a guy yesterday, and they have a train going on the tracks, it's running, and this biker guy, like a guy on a bicycle, he's like a BMXer, I guess you call him a bicycle guy.
Bicycle guy.
Man, I sound very masculine. While the train's running, they set up all these jumps and these ramps and all of that going along the length of the train. And he's doing backflips, landing on the different carts and going
on the train.
Yeah. And now I'm talking about it, so you're hearing about it. But also I noticed on the ramps, he would go up, do a backflip, doing crazy tricks, crazy stuff while the train's running, lands. And then on the side of the ramp, it said Prada. And then on another part, there's not advertising everywhere, but every once in a while on some of the landings, you see Prada. And I'm like, how much did that cost Prada? And again, Red Bull created this amazing moment where this pro athlete is doing crazy stunts where I stopped to watch it, and it's everywhere. And just like the space jump, where it's like they create these moments that are just so jaw dropping that no one can look away, and then they sell that.
It far exceeds the actual brand's product or service, and that's what we're talking about. Is that the brand. He built a brand. He didn't build a business. He built a brand that funnels a business and helps support a business. But the brand is so much bigger, so much far more reaching than these little silver cans that he doesn't actually produce. He's, in a sense, a middleman. He's worked out a contract. Like you said, a handshake and obviously that supplier has grown. You don't produce that many, billions of cans a year and not grow as a business from nothing. So clearly it's been a great partnership, but his overhead is not cost in the production facilities on a global scale to supply Red Bull around the world.
And it's cool because he outsourced the boring stuff of production, doing all that. So he's literally, it's like Disney, where it's like it is intellectual property. It's all intellectual property. And that's what makes these companies so valuable. Even like Coke is valuable because of the Coke brand. Soda's only worth so much, but the Coke brand and the distribution is worth tons and tons and tons. And so even like Red Bull tapping into this and going, okay, if Red Bull is essentially a marketing agency where they are creating these moments, they're fueling that, and then they'll sell ad placement or sponsorship for Prada or whoever, and then push the cans, and the cans are moving and everything's just working together in that sense. Then it's like, okay, what does that mean for a small business? You're not Red Bull. You're not putting on these crazy events and having guys do crazy stunts on moving trains or jumping from space. And I think the principle here is like, don't just keep pushing your brand out there. It's not about just pushing, doing advertising and pushing, but it's about pulling. You have to find this moment or this kind of momentum of being able to pull people in, to seduce your audience and get those around you to lean forward a little and listen.
Yeah.
And I think there's power in that, of going, Red Bull was so confident in its direction, in what it does, where people lean in to see what they're doing. It pulls you in.
Right. And that's what allows brands to grow and cross into other things. I mean, next thing you know, Red Bull could be coming out with its own K-Cup coffee, coffee, or it could come out with its own skate trucks, for skateboards. And I mean, it could start putting out other things in the same, in different categories and probably succeed because he's captured the audience.
Yeah. And it reminds me of like even the evolution we've seen with a lot of companies where it's like, Apple went from computer to iPod to iPhone to, really now services and entertainment and a lot of other things going on. But it was never about the product. And you look at any really successful, brand, whether it's like Costco or anything that we talk about regularly, it's like, it's never about the product. It's never about the offering, but about the much bigger picture, the why behind it, and just the bigger image that's at play.
Red Bull isn't selling energy drinks; it's selling identity.
Yeah. How can you create moments or create experiences or go beyond your initial category of how you actually provide value? How can you go beyond that and pull people in? Because that's what's interesting. That's what people are intrigued by, is when a brand steps into a different lane and maybe starts to connect dots that weren't connected before, and starts doing things that are distinct and that are actually interesting and actually create more value and capture more value than just the initial offering.
Yeah. You guys listening, we're not expecting to launch a Red Bull. They're unique, but it shows the power and the potential of those things. But the principles to touch on that he encapsulated was be distinct, be different, right? Don't just look at the marketplace and enter doing what everyone else is doing. It might be changing the container, might be changing how it's framed, how the public perceives whatever it is you're doing. Find gaps in the market and try to fill those with your brand. And again, be distinct. Focus on engaging with your audience. Again, it's not about pushing, it's about pulling, drawing your audience into the brand, not projecting the brand on the audience. So you have to find ways that are like-minded approaches to come alongside the brand, and then they will be drawn in to adopt the brand as part of their lifestyle. And just think outside the box. Find ways, like Reilly was saying, to do what other people don't do it the same way, and find ways that your brand can exceed and outgrow just that one product or service that you're selling. It might mean in different markets. It might be find ways to engage with experiences, but it's really about focusing so much of your time and energy on the brand, and the business will follow, as was the case for Dietrich and Red Bull.
Yeah, and really, it's like the whole pull, don't push. It takes patience.
Yeah,
because like we've talked about before, I think on a really early episode of Brandy, but we're talking about like not just over shouting, but sometimes you whisper, and that helps people kind of lean in, and they are intrigued, and they are pulled towards you. It's like the art of seduction, and be able to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to just shout it. I'm going to do it a certain way and do it distinctly so that people are intrigued. They lean in, and it's going to take patience. It's like fishing, but that's what's hard, is that all the things that you see online, it's noise, and so you got to find the signal. And just like what Dietrich did, I'm not going to say his last name.
Yeah, it's called Dietrich,
and he found the signal in the noise and focused on that and did that nonstop. And I think that's what just really gave it the momentum, and then help it just really expand and explode into this huge, massive empire that it is.
Yeah.
But thank you again for tuning in to Brandy. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to share it. Or if you want, you could also leave a review. That helps us reach more founders and marketers just like you. And if you have a question, we do have a form in the episode description that you can fill out, and we will see it, and we will be able to answer it on our next episode.
Yeah. Thanks for checking in, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.